Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the hopeful elect of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. Gotta give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, the Most High, the Heavenly Father. His Hebrew name is Yahweh, not Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God, not Elohim, not Most High, not Lord, not Yah, not Jah, not Ahaya, not Allah. It's Yahweh. And his only begotten son name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shai. Not Yahshua, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos, not Jesus Christ, not Serapis Christus, not Yeshaya, not Yehoshua. It's Yahweh Shai. So we gotta give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh. Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders over all of Israel. And a sincere salutation to all the Akim pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world, waking up the hopeful elect. And shalom to the Atwaf who are listening and learning, the Atwathium who are listening and learning, the few sisters who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah from GMS Orlando Camp coming at you another lesson in truth, facts, faith, and edification, another daily edification. Lord's willing, this be edifying. Now, I was speaking about this a couple of days ago in a video I did. And the brother from my camp posted this in our chat yesterday. And it's showing you how you got Richard Wolff and Peter Schiff agree on some things, but some things they don't agree on. And this is showing you they both talking about the fall of Babylon the Great, the collapse, the deteriorating of North America, the infrastructure, the economy, everything about this place is crashing. Some things they agree on, some things they don't agree on. We're showing you the separation in the Egyptians against the Egyptians. So Lord willing, this be edifying.
Hello and welcome to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. As the culture war consumes American politics during this election cycle, the economy remains in a precarious state. Millions of people live on the margins. The only constant for them is insecurity. Economists debate an eventual recovery. They speak of a U, a V, and an L. But is the reality a K recovery, a permanent underclass?
And this is for educational purposes only. This is not for monetary gain. And I do not own a copyright to this video. This is for educational purposes only. Lord's willing, this be edifying.
To discuss this and more, I'm joined by my guest, Richard Wolff in New York. He is Professor Emeritus of Economics at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, as well as author of the recent books Understanding Socialism and Understanding Marxism. And in Westport, we cross to Peter Schiff. He is Chief Global Strategist at Euro-Pacific Asset Management. All right, gentlemen, crosstalk rules in effect. That means you can jump anytime you want, and I always appreciate it. Okay.
So, before I start this, now this morning on the news, just a few minutes ago, they showed that these devils been trying to open back up the economy, but they just showed that they finna fire 28,000 people from Disney. But they so rushed to open back up because they losing money, and Florida is a tourist state. Now they just show on the news 28,000 people finna lose their jobs, man. They are firing 28,000 people. But then you got this devil, DeSantis say, which is supposed to be some type of help in place, which is called unemployment. But now they saying they done ran out of unemployment money. So, but you finna fire 28,000 people. Where they supposed to go? What they gonna do? This is the devil we dealing with, man. These people don't care, man. Now it's supposed to be ain't no more money. They ran out of money, but you gonna fire 20, but y'all rushing to open back up the economy. How you gonna fire 28,000 people, man?
let's go to New York. Richard, in looking at the news about the economy, looking at a lot of macro numbers, sometimes I think it's quite confusing on where the economy is going, particularly when we look at unemployment, permanent unemployment, and jobs that are permanently lost here. But the more I look at it, and you two gentlemen are preeminent experts here, I don't really think it's a U, V, or an L. I'm really quite taken with this K recovery. The rich got richer and the poor got poorer. Is that an oversimplification, Richard? Go ahead.
Not at all. I think we've already seen that now for quite some time, at least 2, more 3 or 4 decades of growing inequality, both of wealth and income. And instead of that being understood as having contributed to the combination pandemic and crash we're living through, instead of that being understood, we see the crash having made it worse. The growth of the wealthy at the very top having outstripped everything we could have imagined, at the same time that now over 60 million Americans have had to file for one or another kind of state or federal unemployment compensation assistance. This is a system that is spinning out of control in terms of extremes of wealth inequality and income inequality, and there's nothing on the horizon that suggests that that's going to change. And so I think that is becoming a permanent quality of this economy. And in a society that used to, in the 20th century, pretend that it was a vast middle class, that capitalism was a tide that lifted all boats, I don't think this is politically or ideologically sustainable.
Peter, the same question to you, because if we look at the consumption patterns of the top 10%, during the worst of the pandemic, the lockdown, their consumption went down something like 15%, but the class that serves them, their income went down more than 30%. That's according to some reports here. So, I mean, and we do know the Jeff Bezos stories and the billionaire stories, how they've really done well out of all of this here. Is that akin to a K recovery? Because we do have this growing and maybe permanent underclass. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, I don't even care what letter you want to try to use to describe it. My problem is with the word recovery, because I don't think we've recovered at all. Sure, there has been a recovery in the stock market in that the market recovered what it lost in the early days of COVID. And yes, I mean, this recession that we're currently in began with a very substantial collapse. And yes, there's been a bit of a bounce off of that collapse, but we're still in recession. And so I don't know if recovering to being in a less severe recession than we were in at one point really qualifies as a recovery. And I don't think we've seen the lows. I think we're going to relapse. I think we're actually going to go down, and there's a good chance that the stock market might make new lows as well. But regardless of what happens with that bubble in the short run, the reality is that Main Street's pain has actually been Wall Street's gain. It's precisely because the economy remains so weak. And what's really at the root cause of the weakness is not capitalism. It's the failure to have capitalism. It's the Federal Reserve that is monetizing massive government debts that are only inflating asset bubbles. But at the same time, it is depriving the real economy of the resources that it actually needs to grow and build a real recovery that would in fact lift all boats. Instead, we're settling for a fake recovery because that's the easiest one to create. Because in order to have a real recovery, we're going to have some short-term pain in order to make that possible. Because what has to recover is not consumption, but production. We need more savings, we need more capital investment. And to enable that, we actually need higher interest rates, not lower interest rates. And we need a smaller government, not a larger government. So everything that we have done since the pandemic began is actually weakening the economy. And we're compounding all of the mistakes that we made before the pandemic. If you remember, we were already slipping long before anybody heard of COVID-19. In the fourth quarter of 2018, that's when the wheels started coming off the bus. That's when the Fed did the about face and started cutting rates. That's when they really started to move from quantitative tightening back to quantitative easing. Now, in March of 2020, right, those trends accelerated. We went right back to zero, and we skipped QE4 and went right to QE infinity. But all these policies are simply blowing more air into a big bubble, and at the same time, they're depriving the real economy of the air that it needs to grow.
Yeah, but if I go back to Rich, but all of these mistakes, and I essentially agree with much what Peter said, but much of those mistakes have benefited the same people, the richest people that we've ever known in the history of humanity. Those mistakes, okay?
Yes, I agree. If you own a lot of assets.
Well, we're agreeing, but I'm focusing on Richard here, is that, but because these mistakes have benefited these people, why should they do anything about it? I mean, they made out. I mean, there's no incentive. Let me go to Richard here. There's no incentive to correct these mistakes. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I think the use of the word mistakes here, it always amazes me. It's a mistake over and over again, year after year. Peter's quite right, I agree. But these mistakes being systematic, being repeated over and over again, are not dealt with adequately by suggesting that if only the mistakes weren't made, we would have some nice functioning capitalism that would again lift all boats. It seems to me that the people at the top have figured out that if and when they can make more money. If that drowns the economy in a downturn, they can turn that to their advantage as well, using monetary policy to inflate the stocks upon which the bulk of their wealth depends. This is a mistake that's so often repeated that the word mistake starts to lose its meaning. This is the way capitalism flares out. It might be nice to imagine that it would function some other way, but that's a utopian imagery of a stateless capitalism that probably never existed, but in the last 100 years for sure has disappeared as the state has become a major lever for the growth and concentration of wealth, with or without the mergers between the state and the biggest capitalists, which is happening more and more as we see. I think this is the real capitalism we have to live with, and not the imaginary one that Peter likes to suggest.
I'm in the middle of the both between.
Wow.
And when you said you agree with Peter, I think you're agreeing with both Peters here. Let me go to the other Peter here.
Yes.
Okay, you used the word capitalism. I think I think it's very problematic because it doesn't seem to be benefiting a whole lot of people these days. Nonetheless, here I would agree with Peter, our guest here, in the sense that I'm tired of socialism for the very, very rich, and then everybody else gets the crumb in the capitalist economy. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, first of all, don't confuse what America has now with capitalism. I mean, what's left of capitalism have been destroyed by socialism. So it's the socialism that has crept into the system that is responsible for the problems and this mass disparity in wealth. But also, you assume that this is going to end well for the rich. I assure you, it's not. These asset bubbles are temporary.
And
a
we
lot
know
of this
that.
wealth only exists on paper. People are not actually spending that money. It's just on a brokerage account statement. What is coming is a major collapse in the value of the dollar. The inflation is ultimately going to result in the cost of living rising much faster than the paper value of people's assets. So believe me, the rich are going to get theirs too. Everybody in America is going to be impoverished to a degree by these failed policies. It's not just the poor and the middle class. They're just going to suffer the most. But in the end, the rich are going to suffer too. The real solution for everybody is a return to capitalism. What we need is sound money, an independent Fed that no longer artificially manipulates interest rates to prop up asset prices and to subsidize government deficit spending. We need much higher interest rates. That will result in a big decline in spending from government, and consumers will have more savings, will have more capital investment. We need a lot less regulation as well as cuts to government spending so we can have a more vibrant economy instead of the sick economy we have now that is on life support, that is temporarily benefiting people who own the assets that benefit from the inflation that the Fed is creating. But ultimately, that inflation is going to rise, result in an increase in the cost of living for everybody. And we are headed for a dollar crisis. And clearly, the rich own more dollars than anybody else. And they have the most to lose when the value of the dollars they're holding completely implodes.
Okay,
This is Isaiah 29 and verse 14. It reads, "Therefore, behold, I will proceed." It say, "I will proceed," talking about Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. "I will proceed to do a marvelous work amongst this people, even a marvelous work and a wonder. For the wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the understanding of the prudent men shall be hid." So what you see is going on is, this is the work of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, man. You heard what Peter Schiff said. Everybody, the rich, the poor, it doesn't matter, man. Everybody finna fall into this slum. Why? Because this is the work of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. Verse 15 say, "Woe to them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who see us and who knoweth us?" The Lord know everything, man. This is from on high, man. You can't hide nothing from the Lord. This is Isaiah 43 and verse 19. "Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it?" We see it, man. We see what's going on. This is from Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, man. This is new. These devils is falling into a slump, man, and they can't get out of it. I got one more. This is Salakia. This is Isaiah 46. This is Isaiah 46 and verse I'm gonna read 9. "Remember the former things of old, for I am power and there is none else. I am power and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient time the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure." This is 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 19. It reads, "For it is written," which I just read in Isaiah 29, "For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent." So this is the Lord destroying the wisdom of this world, man. The Lord is destroying it, man. Everything these devils had going, the Lord have destroyed it. This is Isaiah 42 and 9. "Behold, the former things are come to pass." Everything that happened in the ancient time is happening now, man. "The former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them." And I just read that in Isaiah 48. Isaiah 40. Yeah. Let me see. Salakia. Isaiah 48. No, I'm sorry. What was it? Isaiah 47. No, Isaiah 46. Right. So these things that's going on, man, this is nothing new with the Lord. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 9. It reads, "The thing that have been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It have been already of old time which was before us." That's why the Lord said, remember the things of old, man. This is Ecclesiastes 3 and 15. "That which have been is now, and that which is to be have already been, and power required that which is past. This is Isaiah 19 and verse 2. The Lord is destroying the counsel, because he said his counsel shall stand. This is Isaiah 19 and 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. And that's what's going on, man. The Lord is destroying the counsel of the Egyptians, man. It's failing. It's saying the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. And that's what we see going on, man. Because everybody know the economy is collapsing, man. Everybody know it.
I think we have one thing all three of us have in common: a crisis is on the horizon here. But Richard, how can you save money? How can you invest money if you don't have a job? I mean, it's very simple here. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed a little bit by this. We're going to have high interest rates. We're going to really crunch down on the economy. You mentioned in passing that the consumers will have to save more. They don't have anything left to save from. That's
Right.
why the level of savings of the great mass of Americans is virtually zero or negative already. They've been suffering for so long. There's nothing left to crunch down on them, which is already happening now. Is a recipe for much more turmoil and chaos in this society than we're already seeing. I agree with Peter that this is going to end very badly, and it's going to deflate the bubble at the stock market alongside of everything else. But for me, this is the end of an empire. For the first time in my adult life, I don't see a way out. I don't see a solution emerging. I used to admire the way capitalism overcame the Great Depression and all the other afflictions that it has imposed on the people around it. But I don't
Capitalism
see one
didn't
now.
impose those inflictions. Government did.
No,
Capitalism got us out of it.
Wait a minute. It struck me as one remarkable thing, Peter. To blame socialism for the ills of capitalism is an extraordinary move at a time like this.
This is Habakkuk 1 and 5, which this is another precept I read to Isaiah 29 and 14. Behold ye among the heathen and regard, talking to you Israelites, and wonder marvelously, for I will work a work in your days, which you would not believe, though it be told to you. And we keep telling you people, man. We keep telling you, man, you to prepare through Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, man.
When the socialist movement is coming back from a period of historic weakness, precisely at the time that the growth of inequality went rampant, as you yourself
Socialism
said.
has been alive and well
Socialism is-
beneath
well,
the
let me
surface,
finish.
undermining
Let me
the
finish.
structure of the American
Socialism-
economy. Look, you're talking
Look,
about
I
the fact.
understand that
All right,
socialism.
gentlemen, I have to jump in here. We're going to go to a hard break, and after the
You see? You see? Hey, and I ain't gonna play no more of that, man. That's enough. That's all I need to play, man. You see what's going on, man. Hey, and this all day, every day between these guys, man. Okay, these economists, man. Because they know what's coming. They know. And because they know, there's a separation, man. like I read in Isaiah 19. This is Luke 11 and 17. It reads, but he knowing their thoughts said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and a house divided against a house falleth. This is Mark chapter 3 and verse 23. It reads, and he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end. And that's why they falling, man. First and foremost, they put their hands on the apple of the lower eye, man. I always say this, okay? They put their hands on the apple of the lower eye. That's why their kingdom is crumbling, man. That's why everything is collapsing, because it's time for it. This is the Lord showing them their power is gone, man. They have no more power. That's why when you go back to Isaiah 19, read this again. Isaiah 19 and 2, Isaiah 19 and 3. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to their idols, and to their charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to wizards. But it's not going to work. That's why he said in Isaiah 47, stand now with thine enchantments, man. Okay? All the enchantment that they're going to try to do that they doing is not working, man. Why? The Lord said it, man. A means to an end, man. This is James 5 and 1. It reads, go to now ye rich men, weep and howl for your misery that shall come upon you. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasures together for the last days. It say that shall come upon you, man. The Lord already made this clear that all you inhabitants of Maktesh, you merchant men, that hold silver and gold, you is finna fall on your faces, man. And these 2/3 that's falling after you because you hold the gold and silver. You hold the FRN notes. That Isaiah 31, verse 1 through 3. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1 through 3. All these people, I'm talking about 2/3 of Jake that's following behind Esau Edom, it's finna go into a hole, man. Okay? It said they that help and they that hoping shall fall together, man. The helpers and the ones that's being helped finna fall together. Lord willing, edifying, gotta give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rikak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who well, who teach well. And a sincere salutation to all the arc pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth. Shalom.